Have you ever felt like you're lying to your audience, talking about freedom and authenticity, and then at the same time you're working 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, and like really struggling along in your own business, and maybe even feeling a bit resentful that the thing you're trying to build is not really making you free in the way you want to? The truth is, as solopreneurs, we have this life that is a mix between our business and our private lives, and they tend to overlap a lot. I know for me, at least, it is hard sometimes to set those boundaries between when am I working, when am I being the private Diana, and like when is the business focus, and how do I make this work? So really what we want to do is set some good boundaries. And in this video, I want to explore with you the importance between boundaries and authenticity and how it can help you and your business. So if this makes sense to you, subscribe. That would be amazing. Give me a like on this if you feel like it makes sense to you. Number one, it's all about thinking that being authentic is about always being available. You need to be accessible for your potential clients or your clients 24/7, because otherwise you're not authentic. And that is really a trap that will lead to burnout. This is where it's super, super important to set your boundaries. It's about showing the transparency of your character. It's about setting the boundaries for your energy and showing people that that is okay. Because the thing is, we are also teaching our clients, right? What we let them do is also what we teach them to do. So if we let them book meetings at 9 p.m., then they'll do that. But if we narrow down and say, I'm only available for client calls between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m., then they'll make it work in that time frame. Manage your time, set the boundaries, and teach your clients and potential clients that this is the frames, the boundaries that you're working within. And it's so important that you can be there. You can set boundaries with your clients and have a good business and still have one-on-one time or have your own time and spend your mornings, have that as your own time. A lot of people are talking about having this morning to go deep on your work and have a morning routine. So set off, and I've started doing that myself, and it makes sense a lot of the time, right? So diving into kind of the core or the frog or the soul tasks in the morning when there's often a lot of energy, it makes a lot of sense, right? So remember that, set those boundaries to protect your time so that you also have energy for them when they need it. Let's do a little bit of a thought experiment here. Think about the last time you said yes to a client request where you actually should have said no. How did that feel? Best guess, it probably felt pretty bad. Maybe you got a bit nauseous, maybe your stomach, like a bit of a knot in your stomach. That is not the vibe we want to be in our business. That is really not what we want to do in our business. So this is again about setting those boundaries. And actually, when we're talking about that limit between personal life and business life, the same goes here, that if it's not a hell yes, it's a no, right? And setting those no's up and being authentic. When you say no, when you mean no, when you get that feeling in your stomach, then it becomes authentic, right? So if you say yes to those requests and it doesn't feel right, then you become inauthentic. So the boundary of saying no keeps you authentic, helps you with that authenticity, and that's going to shine through in your company in general. And having that, like, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a no, is a really good idea. And another thing for this, if you have a really hard time saying no, then postpone the decision. So instead of saying no, say, I'll get back to you, and I need to check my calendar. I'll get back to you, because that gives you time to feel that and to be like, oh, I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I really don't want to. And then you can say no, because it's harder to reel back the yes at a later point and cancel. That's going to feel way worse, right? So instead, try to have that new strategy of saying, you know what, that sounds super interesting. Start with the positive. That sounds super interesting. I'll need to check my calendar and get back to you. Number 3 is about communication. When you're self-employed, you don't have that boss anymore standing there being like, hey, you need to, or telling you to leave the office because you're working too much. All of a sudden you become more of actually your phone, maybe your computer becomes your boss, right? There's always something else. There's always new clients to reach out to. There's always something else to do. So this is super important to create communication containers. And I already did talk a little bit about this because this is about teaching your clients when you are available. So again, set these communication boundaries or containers so your clients know that you are available from this time to this time. If you are working across time zones, as I am, it's a good idea. This is something that I need to be better at. And I'm in the process of really learning to think about your client's time zone. So I'm based in Denmark. I work a lot with international clients, a lot of American clients. So I need to remember that when I set my time boundaries or containers in Danish time, I do the calculation back to US time because there's no reason for my clients to have to go through that trouble of calculating that. I just know I need to subtract 6 to 9 hours and then we're good, right? But creating this really creates that boundary of when are you available? And another thing to add to that is that when you respect your time and your own boundaries, your clients are going to as well, right? So if you don't respect your time, why should they? So this is super important. Okay, we need to also communicate this to our clients, but we need to do it without it being like harsh or being like, you should respect my time. That's not the idea here. So instead, if you have clients who want to book you outside of your working hours or your communication containers, try saying something like this. I want to make sure that I'm giving my full focus to the projects that I'm working on this week, so I do not have time for additional calls. So if you notice, there was no I'm sorry in this because this is a boundary, right? I'm not sorry because what I have is I'm already working for a client and a project that is super important. And that also at the same time actually shows that either potential or other client that you respect the client's time, that you respect that you're working on a project and you don't have the time to do more at the moment because you want to do your work very, very well. So this is actually, other than setting the boundary, it is also a way to show the value you bring, the energy, the focus you put into your projects. And people don't just respect boundaries, they also respect people who set boundaries. So whenever there is someone who's really good at setting those boundaries, they will get that respect. So is that going to be you? I would love to know in the comments, what boundaries are you setting for yourself and your company? And finally, let's look at your authentic business blueprint. So if you have built a business where you need to be on 24/7, really build a business, you have just built yourself a nice little cage, hopefully a golden one, but that's not necessarily it, right? You've just kind of done something so you hear a lot of people who are like, I want to be self-employed. I want to be the solopreneur because I want more freedom. I want more time to my family. I want to do all of these things. And what really happens is that they end up working a lot more hours instead. And that's not really super productive. Well, it might be productive, but it's not what was the aim. It's not authentic to the dream. The true authenticity is all about building the business that aligns with your life and your goals. So if that is to run a business 3 days a week or having 3 days a week off, so 4 days a week working, then you should aim for that. Sometimes, of course, in the beginning, it would take a bit more, but by having these habits already in place in the beginning of setting the boundaries, then as you move towards that goal, that is going to be easier and easier, and it's going to just follow you along. Really what it is that your business should support your goals. And of course, you should also support your business goals. But again, as a solopreneur, these things kind of intertwine. And it's so important to align it. It's so important to know that That is the balance in this, right, is so important for you, for your mental health, for your physical health, and for your business health. Because if you don't work, I promise you, your business doesn't either. One of the hardest thing as a solopreneur is actually setting these boundaries. But just remember that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So again, if you don't work, the business doesn't work. Which one of these steps and ideas hit home mostly with you? I would love to know in the comments. How do you set boundaries? How do you make this work in your business? Let me know, and then see you in the next video.